Hi, I'm Mark, producer of Roundtable, the TV series born here in New York City at the legendary Manhattan Neighborhood Network Studios. The exchange of ideas is important, and that is why we bring to you the following presentation. Please watch.
Good evening and welcome to Single Shot Show at Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Today we will be continuing our conversation about the phenomena that rocked the art world, if not the entire world in general, NFT, non-fungible tokens. And tonight we will try to put together a clear understanding of what non-fungible tokens are and how the artist can be using them and how the collector can be using them. And in order to do that, we invited an educator in NFT field and a successful NFT artist, SoundDrGenie, if I'm saying it right.
Yes, that's correct.
Apparently, the art world is not that far from NFT because they also use aliases, but only in the area of street art, they're using aliases that actually have a meaning. So let's start with your alias, how it came to be.
Well, I discovered NFTs back in 2017 with CryptoKitties, which is a game that runs on the Ethereum blockchain. And it was a really interesting game. That was the very first exposure that I got to it. And recently, in 2021, I decided to start using a different blockchain due to the fees on Ethereum, which are really hefty. So that's how I got started back in 2017. But I go all the way back to 2012. That's when I got started into the whole cryptocurrency movement.
Wow, that's excellent. And let's start from the beginning. Thank you very much, by the way, for helping us to make sense out of all this. I'm an artist myself, and most of our viewership are also artists. Some been in the art field for decades, and when the whole NFT concept exploded, everybody got interested, but nobody knows where to even start. So let's start with the basics. Let's try to explain in simple terms, basically in a way you would be explaining to your grandma, what NFT is. Because most of the people, as I mentioned before we started this program, most of them believe that NFT is basically a JPEG that was sliced in few pieces and just distributed on few computers. And obviously it's not exactly that. So let's start with that.
Well, the process is a little bit more extensive. Part of what it takes is what you mentioned, having the JPEG, having the photo, having that MP3, that song that you want to
or video,
make a NFT or video. Right now, it's actually a movie being made as an NFT. It's called the NFT movie.
Interesting.
And once you're making NFT, you want to make sure you put it on IPFS, which is a hosting service. So if you don't have your NFT hosted, your JPEG, your MP3, if you don't have that hosted with an IPFS, then if the website or whatever happens to the server goes wrong, then whoever purchased that NFT from you is going to lose that asset. So that's a very important aspect of NFTs when you're minting them and when you're selling something. So there is plenty of artists that do not know the proper way to do the minting. So that's very important to keep in mind.
Well, so let's start with the basics. Say we have an artist, and this artist have an idea of how to take his just piece of visual art he has in his mind, or he already created or planning to create, And he has an idea to animate it because, as I understand, most of the NFTs right now have to be just a little more than just a flat.
A flat image. Yeah, you gotta
flat
give
image.
the audience, whoever your audience is, that's the people that you have to satisfy. So try not to focus as an artist. Try not to focus to please everybody. Like if you see him, like, oh, this artist selling more because he's doing this thing. Try not to focus on that because then it makes you look like the competition. So that's important to keep in mind. But adding that flair, the moving factor to it, it does bait people into like, oh, this is
Right.
interesting.
So, say the artist came up with the idea of what he can do. He probably even created the file that can be used for that. That, as I understand, could be just a regular video file of
Yes,
one of the standard
an
formats.
MPEG.
So, what are they doing with it then? Going to one of the minting services and creating the NFT there.
You would then go to any IPFS service. So any IPFS service that is available to you, just Google IPFS. I personally use Piñata. So whatever file that you have, go look at the IPFS. Not all files are hosted equally. So maybe you have a file format that is not available on certain services because I came across that problem with Piñata. So I will have to change my format for my videos, NFTs. I will have to change the format from that MOV to that MP4. So that's with Piñata.
Well, that's the most standard one. And no wonder that they focused on that particular one. There is at least one problem with MOV that I would think of. It provides better potential quality, but in the end of the day, they literally 10 times heavier than MP4 with a proper compression.
Definitely.
That's probably what was their reason. Alrighty, so you placed it into this minting service. As I understand, you can create it as just piece of one, or you can even create an edition, just like in analog art world,
Yes.
and price it accordingly. And what do you do with it then? Just sit there and wait, or there are ways in which you can promote the piece. There are ways in which you can give the piece more exposure, more familiarity with the community. As I understand, everything related to NFT at the moment is related to the community.
Yes.
In a recent Christie's talk about NFTs, community was mentioned probably more than anything else. So probably that's the key to creating and utilizing this phenomenon.
Yes, the secret actually to be a successful artist is community, just like you mentioned. Without community, without knowing what your community wants, you're not going to be able to sell quickly. So as long as you know your audience, as long as you know what your community wants, you give them what they want. This is your community. So give them what they want, and then you will make a good profit.
And we're talking about community as following in social networks, as people you personally know. What form of community is employed here?
For example, Gus Fink, that's an artist I'm working with on Instagram. He has a big community on Instagram, but he doesn't have a crypto community. Once you look at his profile, you can see he has auctions right on his comments. But once he tried to sell those NFTs, those arts that he makes, those assets that he makes, he tries to sell them as NFTs. He doesn't succeed because his community is not into crypto. So I'm trying to bridge the crypto community with his Instagram, which is non-crypto, to then give him the advantages of selling his art as NFTs, because at the moment, whenever he sells something, if the buyer sells that piece to somebody else, he's not going to earn extra revenue from it. So that's one important point to keep in mind.
That's another major difference of NFT from any other form of visual art. There is at least a potential possibility, if you created the NFT right, to continue profit from your art piece after you sold it. Because one thing was unshakable since the time of Michelangelo. once you created the piece of visual art, unless it's a movie. That's it. You're done. Whatever you sold it for, you sold it for. There is nothing else you can do about it. In NFT, as I understand, you can configure your token in a manner that actually will allow you to continue receiving royalties every time it's resold.
Yes, and it all depends on which platform you pick and which blockchain you're using. There is many blockchains where you can mint NFTs. Ethereum is one of the most popular. Wax, which I mentioned before. There is another one that allows you to put a higher percentage for the secondary sales on the marketplace, and that's called Phantasma. So there is that blockchain. You can go all the way to 25%. Wax goes all the way to 15%. And I believe OpenSea is 10%. I'm not really sure on that one. Don't quote me on that one, but
well,
yeah,
the specific numbers are not that important for the purpose of this conversation, but it's actually fascinating. It's indeed a big percentage, and knowing psychology of the collector, they actually would probably be less worried about somebody paying a percentage if they buy it, because they do it anyways if they buy it something from the auction.
Right.
All right, so we're going into a short break, and we will continue this after that. All right, we're back, and we were talking about NFT marketing, and there is one major point to be made about that, and one of the things that NFT as an art form will have to overcome. From what I understand at the moment, NFT is chiefly bought, sold, collected, and essentially appreciated by the people from the blockchain community, people who related to this phenomena by other things they do in life. But when it comes to traditional art collectors, to collectors who collect physical art pieces or even digital art pieces, like, for example, David Hockney's iPad drawings, they are still hesitant about it, and they still only considering to join the process. Christie made few successful sales in their auctions, but as I understand, they still were made to people from the same community. Is it correct, or the process of merging those two already began? What do you think?
Well, there's learning curve. The physical community, the ones that do the Da Vinci type of paintings, they have a learning curve. You want to bridge the community towards crypto so they can get those benefits that they don't have right now. The process started already. It's going to be shorter now that is mainstream, because back in 2017 it's almost like 5 years now. So in those 5 years it's been building that momentum where people starting to understand the benefits of non-fungible tokens. I believe, in my opinion, that in the next 5 years there is going to be a lot of people that get born buying projects that don't go nowhere. So if you're building your little empire, your little NFT empire, make sure you link up to the crypto community and learn how to do this process properly so your project could last in the future years to come. Definitely, if you listen to Gary Vee, he's heavy into NFTs right now, and that is the reality. It's a big hype. The entry level is not as high as it used to be because the fees on Ethereum dropped. So that's very important because before, to mint one NFT used to cost like $100 or more. It all depends on the network.
Now I understand the average number is like $5 for NFT for most.
Even cheaper.
Even less than
cheaper.
that.
Yeah.
No, that actually brings it
The entry level is much easier.
Now it makes it accessible to the artists who wouldn't be able to spend $100.
Hundreds of dollars just to mint a piece of art that might and might not sell.
Precisely, that's the whole thing. Because if you know that you can sell, like when we're talking about somebody on level of, say, COAS, $100 is definitely not an issue in this situation, and he can just mint it. And on top of that, with reputation that is as stellar as an artist of this level, he don't have to worry about somebody buying this piece. One person or another will pay. For the regular artist, for the one who is trying to establish their place in the phenomena, it's indeed a completely different situation.
Yes. So I recommend whatever Telegram you see that talks about NFTs, any clubhouse that talks about NFTs, Discord groups, any way that you could get your hands on this group of people that gather just to talk and, focus just what is the next move, what can I do, how can I sell, what is the next blockchain that got cheaper fees, that got a bigger marketplace. You got to focus on those things. Like if you don't focus on that part and you just focus on the art, then it's going to be very, very hard to sell and you're going to be really disappointed. But if you work hard towards building a community, you're going to be fine, like 100%, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, I guess it's a good time to jump on this wagon.
Yes, man, certainly, certainly. In fact, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was able to sell a piece on Wax with the help of Crypto Stash. It was a collaboration that I did with him, and we sold about 300 pieces for $10. It was a cartoon I made of him, right? It was just a little cartoon, and then I did a couple of variations. I made a sticker variation, and I made a physical piece. So 300 copies sold for like around $10, and then there was like 50 copies for like $50, sold out immediately. And that happens because the community. Crypto Stash, he's into the community. He teaches people how to mint NFTs. People want to know how to do these things, so they reach out. I was one of those people. I reached out to him.
Well, that actually is fascinating, and that's yet another proof that at the moment NFT is in a way closed circle that only starting to branch out in the bigger world, but that only makes it to be a more fascinating moment to join it. It's just probably a good moment to think how to prepare for this probably inevitable period when this form of art will become to be not something that just happened and fascinated everybody, but one of the mainstream things that people will be just, discussing and using. And that's, by the way, another thing that is NFT still trying to figure out how you display it.
How you display it, yeah. There is a lot of companies that jump into the equation trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to display the art.
But the thing is, from what I've seen and what I heard, most of those companies actually thinking in terms of analog world. They actually trying to take a phenomenon that is completely new and quite literally put it in a frame of a traditional art. To create a screen that will display something that is so fascinating because it pretty much doesn't exist in physical world into something that people are used to. And in a way, it's helpful for the transitional process, but I do believe that there's something will be happening in terms of creating the ways and forms of displaying it that are completely unrelated to what we're used to right now.
There is a lot of artists, and they do not know they could bridge their physical artwork as an NFT. So whenever you're doing the minting process in whatever platform you end up using, make sure you add to the metadata that you are going to deliver a physical piece of art with your NFT. And that way, people know they're getting the real
Well,
deal.
that's indeed another option that especially will be helpful for traditional analog artists trying to convert into this field. But that actually creates one very interesting question. Say you're an artist, you created NFT, you sold it to me as a collector, so I got delivered a digital copy and physical copy.
Yes,
So what if I'm reselling NFT? Do I have to deliver the physical copy as well?
that would be the deal.
That's a very interesting question.
That would be the deal. That's where it comes down to the negotiation part of that person that wants to collect that piece. So like if you don't want to give them the physical copy, you sell it
You'll
without
have
the
to
physical
negotiate it
copy.
separately.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we'll get back to this after the break. All right, so it is fascinating that something that is completely non-tangible can be converted in a tangible form. Out of all these options that they started to create, what do you think is the most promising at the moment?
For me, the most promising one, and I am biased by the way because I work with Wax. I'm not hired by Wax, but I do believe in the project long term. Wax is my number one to-go solution for my NFTs, definitely.
Well, we definitely will need to research it, and this is one of the toughest things to understand what is actually the most optimal combination of tools that I use to create NFT, to market it, and to store it. As I mentioned before, if you're making a wrong move, you're basically making your product to be in danger of one day becoming to be completely useless and just disappearing.
Yes. It is very important when you're building something that that product is gonna last. That is not just quick making, make a quick buck and just run and go. You just gotta give your people what they deserve.
Well, especially if there will be happening this merge of collectors from the analog world with NFT world, because that is a group of individuals who are particularly conscious about preservation of art. That's what the collecting of art editions is all about.
I mean, think about it. I mean, the MLB, the Major League of Baseball, decided to use the Wax blockchain to do their collectibles. They're looking to preserve their collectibles forever. The Wax blockchain is like without a doubt the best one to run your NFTs, not just because the price to mint is good, but because they have a lot of other products coming in the future. Like you have Bratz, you have Capcom, you have Topps, which is the brand that owns the MLB. There is other things that Topps owns that are also gonna be launching on Wax. So I'm putting, not all my eggs are in one basket, by the way. I also know that Ethereum has a bigger marketplace. So just like you said, that is important to know how you're going to sell your NFTs, because maybe Wax is not going to be good for everybody. If you have really, really exclusive art, really, and you're a known person, a known figure, you might want to go with OpenSea because it's a bigger marketplace.
excellent. All right, we're back, and we have only a few minutes left for this episode. So we were talking about breaching the gap between analog and NFT. And just to wrap it up, what would be your ultimate advice for an analog artist who decided that starting Monday he will be an NFT artist? What exactly he need to do in order for it not to be a waste of time and energy?
To not waste any time, I would recommend to first follow their gut. And what they really want to transmit to their audience. And what I mean by their gut is, if you're an artist, you'll probably have some sort of social media. So leverage that. Leverage what the people in your following likes and create a community around those people. That would be like the best thing to do if you don't want to waste any time. If you want to waste time, start minting like crazy and don't add any metadata to the NFT and just leave it there in the marketplace. That's it. If you want to fail, that's what you do. If you want to succeed, make the community and make sure they're taking.
Actually, a very important point you touched on, which we probably need to discuss further in another time we will be having a conversation. The point of creating scarcity. Mm-hmm. That's another point that was recently discussed in this Christie Symposium. Just like in analog world and NFT world, the more is not the better. Watching quality, if I understood correctly what you're talking about, catering to people who already enjoy your art and making sure that they have only enough, only as much as your market can consume. That actually sounds like a very good approach to working with any art. And in terms of technology, as I understand, you have developed the whole guide that provides the understanding of step-by-step process for actually doing it.
Yes. So it is free. It is on the blockchain and is an NFT that teaches you about NFTs. So
fascinating.
With this thing, you can basically learn how to auction, mint, sell, and give away anything that you want to create.
No, we'll talk about this project of yours in another episode. Right now, we unfortunately have to finish this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us today, and looking forward to continue to talk about it. It's indeed a fascinating world, and it's a pleasure to meet somebody who already succeeded in it.
Thank you, Alex, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark for Roundtable. Thanks for watching. See you next week.